And welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. If you are just joining us today, as I promised earlier, we are going to talk about matters to do with, encouraging people in our society to quit smoking tobacco. And as I told you earlier on, worldwide, tobacco use causes more than 5 million deaths. Now, according to statistics, we realize that tobacco is the leading preventable cause of death in the whole world. Now, you can imagine this. At this moment, as we are speaking, this comes at the heels of a report of a statement that was made by President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, of course, on the lockdown. Schools today, primary schools and secondary schools, that's day from this Monday, will not be attending class. An executive order that will be lasting for the next 14 days as the country, looks forward to see what happens after this. And as you also heard from the president himself, the coronavirus cases in the country, infections in the country, confirmed are 3 as things stand right now. 27 of the people who traveled together with the first case have already, the government has already reached out to those people, and they're under the surveillance of the government, which means that they're being watched. And also the government is encouraging that people to take precaution. We saw yesterday in churches, many churches that continued with their services, measures were put in place to just make sure that people wash their hands, people disinfect their hands, and also greetings with hands and hugs. Some of these normal things that we do, maybe when we meet in these social gatherings, were actually cut down. And the president also advised, if possible, people to avoid social gatherings, weddings, funerals, and, hanging out with friends in pubs and so on and so forth, if it's not necessary. And also there was an advice to corporate and companies to try as much as possible, if their members or if their employees can work from home, if they have to, and if only necessary, then they should go to the hospital. Today I'm graced to have with me 2 guests in studio, a gentleman and a lady, who will be talking to us about the, encouraging to cut down or to quit the use of tobacco, which, as we were having a chat before the program began, I realized that tobacco users or smokers are also more vulnerable to this epidemic that is now taking toll of the whole world. This is the coronavirus, because most of these people, you realize, they share their cigarette. And we'll talk more about that, but then first let me allow my guests to introduce themselves as we begin. Maybe we start with they say ladies first. Karibu, just introduce yourself, your name and what you do and where.
My name is Eunice Mino, working as a nurse in Kangundo District Hospital, that is in Machakos County, in the Department of Newborn Units. Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yes, gentlemen.
Good morning, viewer. My name is Bernard Mwega. I work at Katundo Level 5 Hospital as I'm a nephrology nurse, but also I'm a community nurse. And today we are going to discuss about smoking and how to help people to stop smoking. We are going to look at the effects of smoking in your body, and also related to this pandemic of coronavirus. We realize that smokers are at a higher chance of contracting the virus, and when they contact it, they are more vulnerable to complications than the non-smokers. So today, take your pen, take your paper, and be ready to jot something about smoking and how to stop smoking. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let us start from, the greatest news that we have, the biggest news that we have today in our country. The president yesterday comes out and cautions Kenyans and also gives directives for, lockdowns, the amount of visitors, the number of the people coming into the country right now. He he was very categorical that now Kenya will not allow anyone from any country that has confirmed coronavirus cases. Secondly, they are only going to receive Kenyans. And also non-Kenyans who are going to be received are the ones who are residents, who have like valid resident passes. Maybe if you can just touch on a little bit, and I thank my brother because he has already actually given us a jump start on the same. How, in your area, how are people or how is the county prepared in terms of this? If you can just touch lightly on that.
I would say Machakos County has enabled their health care workers by taking them for seminars to prepare them on how to tackle this corona, because as we have seen, this is a highly communicable disease. And I would say if it comes, then I think we are ready and we are able to tackle it. And we are praying and asking for the society to heed to what is being told to them.
Yes.
And to follow instructions to the latter. If you're told to hand wash, hand wash.
Sure.
Sanitize your hands, kindly do that sanitization. Don't just cough anyhowly. Do not just sneeze in a public means of transport anyhowly. Take the precautions that are necessary. And I think with the help of our government and our county governments and the medics, then we shall be able to curb this giant.
Sure, it's really important that people take precaution. And I'm sorry to say this, but Kenyans always have this way of joking with problems that they're facing in society, and some are already joking and saying that this corona must be food, because if we are being told to wash our hands, then I mean, maybe I would like to ask if the way that Kenyans have been sensitized so far. The government has done all that it can to sensitize Kenyans and also give precautions on how to handle themselves. We saw churches yesterday. I don't know if you went to church, but in my church I realized that people had to, they were checking the temperatures. Then they were supposed first to, what do they call it? Sterilize their hands sanitize their hands before they wash and go in. Maybe you can touch on that a little bit. Kiambu County, how prepared is Kiambu County on the same?
Okay, thank you very much. I believe we are prepared as a country, not only as Kiambu County, but as a country and a health worker. I can confirm that we are really prepared, because we say that a wise man learns from the mistake of others. It's only a fool that learns from their own mistakes. We have seen mistakes which have been made in the Western countries, and that's why they are having very big numbers. And in Kenya, we are not ignoring this menace. And first of all, we are doing sensitization of the health worker. Remember, this coronavirus, they started calling it novel coronavirus. Novel means new. It is something very new. We don't have it in the medical books. So the health worker is being sensitized. The health worker is being educated. Last week, I attended a sensitization seminar at Katondo Level 5 Hospital, where we were taught about how to handle the coronavirus, how to identify people with coronavirus, how to prepare ourselves, and how to protect ourselves. Remember, it's a disease. So the first person we are protecting is the caregiver.
Yes.
Because if somebody gets sick and they go to the hospital, and all the people in the hospital are sick, who is going to take care of them? So we must take care of the health worker. And we have personal protective equipment.
Yes.
These are those equipment, or we call them equipment because they are not clothes. Yeah. They are like clothes, but when you wear them, you look like an astronaut.
Sure.
Like somebody going to the moon. Because you are covered from head to toe. Yeah, you have gumboots, you have liquid resistant clothes, you have a face mask, and all those things. So we are really prepared, and we are calling upon the public to take their part, because this corona needs, I'm looking at it at 3 levels. Personal preparedness. you protect yourself.
Yes.
Then protect the other person. Number 3, protect the community.
Yes.
So if we all play our part,
Yes.
then definitely it's not going to be bigger than us.
Yeah.
And we are going to prevail, and of course God is with us.
Sure, and I think if I may just echo the words of the health CS, Mutahi Kagwe, he actually cautioned and asked Kenyans that this is all about prevention. The more we are careful in terms of just taking preventive measures, then we can curb the spread of the same. And maybe if we just quickly shift to our topic of the day. Maybe I just ask this. I know it's been spoken for so many years, so many times, but still it's happening in our midst. How dangerous is tobacco to a human being? If I may start with that. How dangerous is tobacco to a human being? What are the effects of tobacco consumption to a human being?
Okay, I would say tobacco is dangerous to us. Why? Because when you inhale the smoke, through either being an active smoker or a passive smoker, this goes into your respiratory system. It affects starting from your mouth all down to your lungs. So you will find that if you are smoking actively, then there is that effect of the nicotine in that tobacco from your mouth that can cause cancer down to your throat, down to your trachea, into your lungs. This will bring about respiratory diseases. Again, it can bring about diseases like the heart diseases, stroke. It predisposes you to so many other issues. So I would say tobacco is a dangerous practice. Yes.
On the same?
Yeah, I will look at it on a systemic view. First of all, it is good to note that tobacco contains more than 70,000 chemicals. One stick.
70,000.
70,000 chemicals.
Okay,
7,000 of those.
That's scary.
That's scary. 7,000 of those are cancer-causing chemicals. So you can see what the person is inhaling. The major carcinogenics or the major chemicals in the cigarettes, one is tar, T-A-R, lami.
Tar.
Lami
ile lami.
Tar ni kama lami, because it is a sticky substance.
Yes.
And it is the one that causes discoloration of teeth. You see, smokers have discolored teeth when they smoke for a long time. It is tar. It is that smoky, that sticky component that is in the cigarette. And therefore, you can see yourself. Have you ever passed by? There are people, the road constructors. Sometimes they burn tar in drums.
In drums, yeah.
You see that smoke that comes out. You can imagine somebody inhaling that, and they are doing it on purpose because you are never forced to smoke. Number 2, carbon dioxide. When you smoke, you inhale carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide displaces oxygen in the blood, and carbon dioxide is 200 times, has an affinity 200 more times than oxygen. The hemoglobin is the molecule that carries oxygen. Carbon dioxide attaches to it 200 times more than oxygen does. So you can imagine, if you take a little carbon dioxide, it will displace a lot of oxygen in your blood. So what will that lead to? Difficulty in breathing, poor health of the blood vessels, and all that. Then we have oxidizing components. Oxidizing chemicals are these chemicals that they cause a lot of acidity in the blood. They cause disformation of blood vessels, and so many other things. Then there are metals and radioactive components. We have nickel, we have mercury, we have lead in cigarettes. In cigarette. And somebody is smoking. So if you want to look at the effect of smoking in the body, let's go systematic. cardiovascular system. We have already seen that it displaces oxygen. Once it displaces oxygen, then you cannot be able to do strenuous exercises. You cannot run, you cannot do heavy because you tend to strain more. The heart cannot work better. It has to work harder for it to deliver more oxygen. Then that definitely means blood pressure going up. So you get hypertension. The blood vessels start narrowing. The smoker is at a higher risk, is 50% more at risk than a non-smoker for getting cardiovascular diseases. Because the blood vessels will start getting thin, and so blood going through will be more difficult. So the heart again has to pump harder. You can imagine it's just like usually equated to a water pump.
Yes.
If you put a 6-inch pipe in a water pump, it will pump without noise. Reduce that pipe to 2 inches. The pump will increase the noise. You will hear an increase in the noise. The same thing with the heart. When the vessel narrows, it works harder. So therefore, more heartbeats. When you listen with the stethoscope, then the heart rate goes higher. Then what happens in the other organs, like in the reproductive organ? In men, it causes low libido. And
really?
Yes.
Cigarette?
Yes.
Cigarettes are a cause of low libido in men.
The way men enjoy cigarettes.
It causes low libido.
themselves.
And also definitely it also causes infertility in women.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, once you leave cigarette for about 20 years, you go back to like a non-smoker. Yeah. You become like a non-smoker.
Or if you quit for 20 years.
If you quit for 20 years, you go back, you become like a non-smoker. All those risks are reduced.
Now, when we look at some of the factors that I want us to look at very quickly, when we create awareness about smoking, I would like to talk about first women, and especially women who are mothers smoking. When I listen to him describe all this, then it is quite evident that if either this woman is pregnant, or this woman is, breastfeeding, or this woman has a small child and does the same in the house, then the effects of this to the health of course, the woman, we've seen, but now the effect of this to the child or the other family members. How do we deal with this, and how does this affect also the other members of the family who are within the premise?
I would say for a woman to be smoking, if you're pregnant, this can lead to so much damage to the unborn child. Number one, we shall have anomalies of that fetus because once you smoke, this affects the normal growth of the child in utero. So the child will have congenital abnormalities. We shall have a child that is born before time, a premature delivery from the same. We shall also have stillbirths, babies that die in the uterus, because as he said, the circulatory system is affected, oxygenation to the body of the mother is affected, and this is needed for the transmission of oxygen through the placenta into the child. So if I block it by smoking, that means my child is not going to receive enough oxygen, and this will cause organ failure in that developing child and will result to stillbirth. Again, we shall have low birth weights, children born with not the recommended weights. A normal baby is supposed to weigh 2.5 to 3.5, but now you find, because you're smoking, and if you don't know, smoking affects appetite. It's an appetite suppressant. So because I am smoking, I don't feel the taste of food, so I'll not want to eat. I would rather smoke and stay in that a feeling of, yeah, this
And
is
that
it.
in turn
It affects the weight of the baby, because you will not take in the nutrients that are needed for this child to grow in utero. So when you get a preterm baby, that means more developmental problem in this child as they grow up. Again, if you're smoking and you're lactating, same is going to be transmitted to your child. Remember, the nicotine gets into system. When it gets to your system, you can transmit it to this child via lactation. Again, when they are children, your servant is there, your husband is there, your relatives are there, and you're smoking, you're making them passive smokers. You're giving them the second-hand smoke, which is actually more dangerous than the actual smoking. When I am smoking and you're here seated with me, you're at more risk than I am, because I'm giving out the undesired chemicals straight to you. I filter, I give it to you. So this is, I would call it an immoral practice, which should be, I think smoking should totally be banned for the health of everyone.
Which raises a lot of questions. Why the government has not been able to touch the tobacco industry in the country, which, I mean, would go to the extent of saying, you know, Kenya is a non-smoking zone, like we see in town, these are non-smoking zone. But then we have designated areas by the government where you're allowed to smoke, where you find a high concentration. And I would also like to, I would also want to know, I mean, if you go to these places, the concentration of the smoke is so high. What is that any different, or because they are smokers, it's just okay? I mean, the thing is in the system, and
of course, it harms them, and it harms even the non-smokers, because we have a concentration, a higher concentration of smoke in that zone. But before I go to that, let me add just something about the effects of smoking in the unborn and the young ones. It is good to note that the unborn has an increased risk of getting cleft lip palate, and also attention hyperactivity disorder. This child will be born with attention hyperactivity disorder, cleft lip and cleft palate. Also to those who've been born, the young ones, you are putting them at risk of ear infections, respiratory infection like bronchitis, asthma, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders, and the most dangerous one, sudden unexpected infant death. A child just sleeps and dies because of the mother smoking, because of the father smoking in the house. So as Eunice has said, it's quite immoral, because if a child has died in the house because of smokers in the house, then are we not bound to call them murderers? Sure. They have killed, isn't it? They have killed.
Because it is out of the effect of what they've done
that the child has died.
The child has died.
So it is quite dangerous. Now let's come back to the concentration of smoke and smokers and the smoking zones. Now there's a very high concentration of that whatever smoking. And remember, when you light a cigarette, the only thing that a non-smoker does not get is tar. Tar is the only thing that the non-smoker does not get. Everything else, the 7,000 chemicals, the 70,000 chemicals that are in the stick goes to the air. And when I pass by a non-smoking zone, and even if you go there, even a blind person can identify a smoking zone, because they will feel something different. And I think that's why sometimes you go to those areas and you start getting a headache, because the level of carbon dioxide in your body has gone up. The level of carbon dioxide of your body has gone up. So it affects the non-smokers, and even the smokers who are there. I'm sure there could be a study, but I've not come across one. But I think when a smoker goes to the smoking zone and smoke, I think it increases the risk.
It increases the risk.
I can hypothesize that it increases the risk, because he's taking more smoke than if he was smoking alone. So I think the non-smoking zones are also dangerous to the smokers and non-smokers. And we should ban smoking altogether.
And also the danger of second-hand smoking. You see, for a smoker, they take in the smoke and then they give it out, right? But then for the second-hand smoker, you breathe it through your nostrils into your lungs directly. You know, when we look at this, then because I'm trying to also try and create this picture of a no-smoking zone, a smoking zone where these people, they are smoking, but again they are inhaling the same through their noses. But then, that aside, is there a study in Kenya today that shows, you know, statistics that shows the amount of people who smoke and what the ages are and so on and so forth? Because I think this is something also that the public needs to be aware of. And it's quite unfortunate that such information in Kenya, yes, sometimes they're there, but then it's really hard to come by. Maybe if any of you has these numbers, you can share with us.
Yeah, there's a study which have been done. The World Health Organization has facts. The CDC has facts. If you go to the internet and you search, you see the Kenyan fact sheet on cigarette smoking. And it says that we have 8,100 deaths of cigarette smoking in Kenya per year.
8,100 deaths
8,100 deaths per year. That comes down to 150 deaths per week. Last week, from Monday to Sunday, 150 people died because of smoking. Nobody died of coronavirus.
Of course.
Yet, we are more afraid of coronavirus than smoking. Smoking is going to cause more deaths than the virus is going to do that. But how many smokers do we have in Kenya? In total, we have around 2.2 million smokers in Kenya. When we categorize them in age, we have about 18,000 who are below 14 years.
18,000 below 14 years.
These are children.
These are children, yes.
These are children, and mostly they can be found in secondary schools. And we even have children as low as 11 years. That's in primary school, smoking. We have adults, about 2.1 million, who are smokers. And out of these, 1% are women. 1% of Kenyan women, we are 40 million. 1% is around 400,000?
450,000.
450,000 women in Kenya are smokers. While we have another group, about 3.6%, who use smokeless tobacco. This is tobacco that is put in the mouth in form of kuber, in form of just smokeless tobacco, like the traditional tobacco.
Forms,
there are different forms in different cultural settings. So those are the facts, the fact sheets for Kenya, and you can see they are really alarming.
Now, I think, I don't know, time is flying so fast, but then before we end this, I think it's very important for us to talk to our viewers and also to just try to discourage this habit. I don't know if to call it a habit or what to call it. What do you advise the public, especially when it comes to smoking and the health, not just of their families, but also for their own health? Because this is, I think, very key.
Yes.
And some of these things people do because sometimes they don't have the information.
Yes.
Yes.
I would say we cushion our habits. Some will say it's depression that is causing me to smoke. Financial constraints are causing me to smoke, forgetting the cost that is involved in smoking. You know, I see these guys exchanging money. You give a 5 bob for one stick. And then there's no like change. And then I ask myself, this is one mandazi. You should have done yourself better eating mandazi than taking all these chemicals into your body.
70,000 like we had.
Yes. And the fact that we have about 18,000 babies, let me call them babies, because age 10 to 14 into smoking, who is the role model of that? Us adults. When I am smoking in public, even on those smoking zones. I'm passing there with my now 6-year-old son.
Sure.
He sees. And then he's like, oh, wow. So these guys are smoking in public. Even if it is a restricted area of smoking. He says, okay, so this is doable.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, he'll want, you know, kids are very curious.
Yes.
He'll want to see, taste, smoke and feel. How do they feel?
They feel.
When there are so many in one place doing the same thing, then this seems to be
something
fun.
acceptable.
So we are transmitting, let me call it a disease to our children. So I would advise us all, if it is possible, let us cease the smoking behavior.
Yes.
And the government to take an extra mile of ensuring, not only in towns, because the practice of non-smoking zones is in CBD.
It's only in the CBD.
You
and
go
not
to
in-
clubs, people smoke carelessly and freely. You're walking along the estate streets,
It's
left,
free.
center, all over. People are smoking and nothing is being done.
So the government should put more measures into
Yes.
that and see to it that also this ban is extended to other areas.
Exactly.
I'm trying to cut you short because I'm being told time is also not on our side. Maybe my brother, before, as we finish, your parting shot as well, and also your advice to the public on the same.
I would urge people to stop smoking. I have never smoked myself. I've never smoked. And I would urge everyone to stop. Those who are smoking to stop smoking. One, if you want to start smoking, set a date. Say from tomorrow, I won't smoke. Set an objective, a smart objective. Say I won't smoke from tomorrow. Then tell a friend. Don't keep it to yourself. Tell a friend. Get a friend who can support you. Maybe your spouse who is not smoking. Maybe a relative, a close confidant who is not smoking. Tell them that I want to stop smoking. And from tomorrow, if you get me smoking, remind me that I'm not supposed to be. Set targets and then remove cigarettes in your possession. From your pockets, from your drawers, from your car, from your office, everywhere. Then if you have any problem, consult a medical doctor for advice. There are there are other forms, medical interventions, like we have nicotine replacement therapies, we have non-nicotine replacement therapies, and there is always psychological helps in hospitals.
Yes.
You can go for psychological counseling and psychosocial counseling. So let us stop smoking, because we have seen it harms even the unborn child. It does not, and remember, before time is a bit short, but it is good to note that it causes 18 different cancers in your body.
18.
So smoking is harmful and we have to stop it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, because of time we have to call it quits, and I wonder how 40 minutes can just fly away in that way. But then I hope that this week, hopefully, if God gives us grace, then I would really love to have you guys back here so that we can continue from where we left. I know we've not spoken. We actually just began scratching the surface on the topic. But then I think it's something that we need still to keep talking to our publics about and creating more awareness about. Viewer, we have come to the end of this segment. Thank you very much for joining us. You can keep the conversation going using our hashtag, that's GBS Morning Extra. Our Twitter handle is @KenyaGBS. Our SMS line is 21144. You can always send your views and your comments, and also ask your questions if you have any on the same, and we'll make sure that that gets to our guests, who will also be in a position to answer you accordingly. Well, that's all we had prepared for you on this segment. Don't touch that dial. My colleague Kevin Nyariki will be coming shortly with the Morning Sports Extra. Bye-bye for now.